So today we will begin with our fourth chapter, learning tapasya, self-control. Tapasya means voluntarily acceptance of inconvenience. Is it not? That we from our own will we accept inconvenience. I will wake up early in morning. I will leave my bed in early morning and I will chant for Krishna. I will only consume food after offering it to Krishna. Instead of hearing mundane talks, materialistic mundane talks, I will hear about Krishna. Instead of hearing rubbish songs, I will hear songs about Krishna. I will hear Hare Krishna Kirtan. So you all can agree on this that we voluntarily, we from our own will, we are following this process of Krishna consciousness. We have accepted this inconvenience. Inconvenience means basically stepping out of our comfort zones instead of sleeping late till late hours and instead of consuming anything like goats or whatever things, whatever rubbish things we were doing when we were not Krishna consciousness. So we accepted this process from our own will. And yes, tapasya is voluntarily accepting the inconvenience. Or self control means denying the interest of senses. Our senses always tells us to that we may gratify them, gratify those. Is it not that we gratify our senses? But controlling senses means self control means basically control over the senses. So denying the interest of senses is control over senses. If one does not come to Krishna consciousness, he may be relieved from the time being from the reactions of sinful activities, but he will again commit transgressions. Transgressions. So basically, Srila Prabhupada is continuing from the previous chapter, is continuing this topic from the previous chapter, where we were discussing that people may perform different atonements to get rid of whatever sinful activities they have committed, but their bad habits, their bad sanskars will influence them again to commit sinful activities. So basically, if any person is not if he has not accepted the remedy of Krishna consciousness, so okay, he may get relieved by the atonements or by the atonements of whatever sinful activities he have committed in his past, but he will again commit transgressions. Therefore, Parikshit Maharaj said, Kvachin nivartate bhadrat kvachich chariti tat punaha prash Prashchitam ato pratham. Repetitive sinning and atoning seem to me like nothing but a waste of time. He gave the example of an elephant which cleanses his body thoroughly in a lake or reservoir, but as soon as he comes onto shore, he takes dust and throws it all over his body and immediately becomes dirty again. So you might have heard this example, or maybe you might not have heard it, but basically, this example he gave that you will see an elephant, he will take a nice bath for cleansing his body. Okay, he'll go in a lake and he will put lots and lots of water. He will throw lots of water uh, on himself. He will take a nice shower, nice bath. But as soon as he cleanses his body, then again he comes onto the shore. Basically, he again cover himself with dirt. He takes dust and throws it all over his body and immediately becomes dirty again. So what is the use of cleansing the body? Suppose you woke up early in the morning and you just went to take a nice shower, a nice bath, and then again you you just messed up, you put some dirt or whatever things on yourself. Then what is the use of taking shower? If we relate it with our practical lives, so when one takes shower and after taking shower, suppose he wear same garments, those unwashed garments which he uh, worn last night. So those are dirty garments, and he wear those garments again after taking a nice shower, and he again suppose he again slept in bed. So there is no use of taking shower then, is it not? And you won't believe people really do like this. They'll wake up early in the morning, they'll take shower, and then they'll again go to sleep. Basically to save their times, but this is not the standard. Anyways, so you might be understanding this example. This Parikshit Maharaj said that although one may cleanse himself in the process of atonement, if he again commits the same sinful acts, what is the use? So are you understanding that atonements, taking basically practicing atonements is like taking a shower, a nice bath. And if any person has performed all the atonements, uh, basically he has cleansed all his sinful reactions, whatever he committed. But again, if he commits sins, then what is the use of him performing those atonements? Therefore, the second question put by Parikshit Maharaj to Shukdev Goswami is very important. How can one ultimately become free from all contamination brought about by the material modes of nature? If one cannot achieve liberation, what is the use of atonement? So basically, Parikshit Maharaj is asking this question from Shukdev Goswami ji, that even though if he is performing all the atonements, but then also he he has not became free from those contaminations, those contaminated habits which is influencing, which will influence him again to do all those sinful activities. Then he will again perform, he will again commit sinful activities, and then there will be no scope for him to get liberated from this material world. Is it not? For achieving liberation, one has to perform purity. One has to perform devotional services in his life. He cannot get liberated if he is committing sinful activities. In answer, Shukdev Goswami said that merely counteracting karma, fruitive activities by other activities cannot bring one's miseries to a final end. For example, the United Nations is attempting to establish peace in the world, but they cannot stop war. War breaks out again and again. After the First World War, statesmen and diplomats manufactured the League of Nations. The League of Nations. Then the Second World War came, and now they have devised the United Nations. But war is still going on. The actual goal is to stop war, but that cannot be done. By one action, war is created, and by another action, war is stopped for the time being. But again, at the next opportunity, there is another war. The cycle of sinful activities and atonement is like that. When we actually want, what we actually want is to be free from suffering and war, but that does not happen. So now, another example being given here of the war. That United Nations is attempting to establish peace in the world. But real peace will come when there will be no wars. Is it not? Suppose if any like members of the family, they are just fighting with each other, they are conflicting. And another person is trying to make peace in family. So those conflicts should be solved. Then only peace will come. But if people are, members are just fighting, that can be because of any reason. They are just fighting, and they are all, and that person is trying to make peace in family. So peace cannot come, peace cannot be established if those fights, those conflicts are not stopped. So, same way, here, this country is attempting to establish peace in the world, but they are not able to stop the war. All right. So, same way, people, they are committing sinful activities. So, this is like a cycle which is going on and on and on. And they are just committing sinful activities. They are performing atonements, then they are again committing sinful activities. So, what we actually want is to be free from suffering and war, but that does not happen. Shukdev Goswami said that one kind of war causes a disturbance, and another kind of war stops it for some time, but that is not the ultimate solution to the problem. Same way, we took example of the family members. Uh, they stopped fighting for some time, but because they have not worked to the root of the problem, so they will again start fighting. They will again start to fight because they have not worked on the ultimate solution to the problem. Shukdev Goswami states that these troubles happen due to ignorance. Avedvad adhikaritvat. Avidvat means lack of knowledge. Avidvat adhikaritvam prayashchitam vimarshanam. Real atonement is performed in knowledge. So you can really relate with this thing that because of lack of knowledge, people are committing sin. They are not aware of this thing that what is good for them. Do you agree with this? That people, because of lack of knowledge, they are not aware about what is good for them or what is bad for them, what they should avoid to do, what they should do to achieve perfection in life. So, because of lack of knowledge, these troubles, basically, they are committing all these sinful activities. Why is there fighting and why are there miseries? Unless these why questions, which in the Vedas are called Kena Upanishad, arise in one's mind, one is not fulfilling the proper function of his human life. These questions must arise. Why am I suffering? Where from have I come? What is my constitutional position? Where shall I go after death? Why am I put into miserable form of life? Why are there birth, death, old age, and disease? These are the questions of Srila Sanatan Goswami. Srila Sanatan Goswami also asked these questions from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Lord Chaitanya. Basically, he asked these questions for us, for we people, because we are so dumb. We ourselves cannot ask these questions. Have you ever realized these things? At least I have never realized these things. But yeah, one question arose in my mind. I remember there was a time when I was thinking someday I was just sitting, and that was very strange. It might seem strange, but I was just looking at myself. I was just, you know, deeply, that was a deep thought. I was just looking around myself, around things, uh, the things around me. I was just gazing to them, and I was really thinking that from where I have come, from like where from have I come, and where will I go? I mean, we often hear these things that whoever has came in this world, he will definitely go. But go where? He will go where? Where will he go? And if we will die, so will we finish? So I was really contemplating on these things. And of course, this happened only for one day. Then I really didn't got time for thinking about these questions. I was just busy in my material life. But yes, these are really deep questions. And these questions must arise. Must means must. These are not optional. These questions are not optional. These questions must arise in one's mind. But why am I suffering? I don't want sufferings. And what is my constitutional position? Where shall I go after death? Or will I get finished if I'll die? Or if okay, I am soul, soul is eternal, it cannot die, a soul cannot die, then where will I go after death? Why am I put into a miserable form of life? That okay, even though human form of life is precious form of life, and like very elevated consciousness we have, but then also why have I put into this miserable form of life? Even though I am human being, but then also there are so many problems in my life, so many materialistic problems. I have to work so much of I have to work so hard for the sake of my survival. I don't want to work. Do you agree with this? We don't want to work. We don't want to go on whatever jobs we do, whatever work we do. We really don't want those. And I can prove this that we really don't want jobs because we always seek for holidays. We want break from our work. Why? Because we are actually not relishing it. We don't want to work. Srila Prabhupada tells that if you don't want to work, you just want to enjoy picnic, then this is Goloka mentality. We are actually Goloka people. Yesterday, I saw a very beautiful photograph where, Srila Prabhupada was surrounded with so many devotees, so many little kids were there, and they all were wearing Vaishnava dress, and they were looking so beautiful. Devotees are really attractive because they are serving Krishna. They are they are following austerity in their life. They are living an austere life. So that was really beautiful photograph. So those are Goloka people. We are Goloka people, but we are just rotting in this world. So yes, if you are someone who do not like to work and you want to enjoy picnic, so this is Goloka mentality. When you will go back to Godhead, you will only enjoy picnic with Krishna. One should really hear about all these things. Then only he will desire to go back to Krishna. Otherwise, we always take things of this material world seriously. This is like our conditioning that we take so much this material life. We take these material life for serious. We should take our material life for granted and we should take our spiritual activities for serious. But we do just opposite of this. How can these questions be solved? Sukdev Goswami says, Nasnatah pathyam evanam vyadha. Okay, I have to search. Anyways, let me just search. Okay, I'll just search in my phone. It will be easy for me. Yes. नाश्नतः पथ्यम् एवान्नं व्याध्यो भी भवन्ति हि एवं नियमकृत राजन शनैः क्षेमाय कल्पते. If one wants to actually stop diseased life, he must follow a regulative principle. Now, this is very important thing, following regulative principles in our life. And one should know this thing that whatever Srila Prabhupada has told us, the regulative principles, four regulative principles, it's not Srila Prabhupada has made those principles. These regulative principles are mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam. And it is also mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam that whoever follows these four regulative principles, he is actually living in Sat Yuga. Sat Yuga, where people follow so much of purity in their lives. Their only business is to serve Krishna. and they serve Lord. They live an austere life for thousands and thousands of years. But any person who does not follow these four regulative principles in their life, in his life, then he gets easily influenced by the nature of Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga is something which is full of hypocrisy and whatever bad things you may see. So yes, see it's written here. People are driven by material desires and forget their humanity. They are just so much engrossed into fulfilling their material desires, and they are always into exploiting other people for gratifying their senses. People function on deceit and hypocrisy, and spiritual practices are no longer a part of their lives. So this is how Kali Yuga influenced those people who do not follow these four regulative principles. So that's what Prabhupada, it is mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam, and Shukdev Goswami is telling this thing that one must follow regulative principles in his life. People are said to have short lives with a maximum of 50 years. People suffer from cold, wind, heat, rain, and snow, as well as hunger, thirst, disease, and anxiety. Now, you might think that if any person, if he is there in this material world, then he will have to suffer these things. Even if he takes birth in Sat Yuga or other yugas, then why specifically for Kali Yuga? Why are these things mentioned specifically for Kali Yuga? Because we easily get influenced by all these climate changes. Can you relate with this? That, if weather is changing, season is changing, then we immediately get sick. So we easily get influenced by these climatic changes and whatever other things, hunger. We easily get disturbed from all these things, hunger, thirst, sleep. So, yes. Okay. Moving forward now. So, if one wants to actually stop diseased life, he must follow regulative principles in his life. If a person does not follow the program given by a physician to cure his disease, he cannot be cured. Similarly, if one does not think or act wisely as Vedic knowledge prescribes, how can he stop the problems of life? If they are engrossed in materialistic things and they are just engrossed in solving their material problems, then how will they get relief from this problem of birth and death? Because they are not giving importance to this, and basically they are not accepting the remedy. They are not following the program given by the Vedic Shastras. Then there is no possibility for them to stop this problem of life, which is the real problem of life. Whatever material things we go with, material life, material problems basically, these are fake. Very beautiful point Maharaj was explaining that whatever we think, like whatever we think about our past life, about our present life or future life, it is just a dream. It is basically equivalent to a dream. Just like when we are sleeping and when we are dreaming, so we completely forget our real life. That in real life we are someone's wife, we are someone's husband, son, sister, or whatever. We completely forget that. Is it not? We completely forget our real life, the relation, or whatever duties we do in our real life when we are awakened. But when we sleep, when we are dreaming, we completely forget all these things. So, same way in this material world, we are actually dreaming because we have actually forget we have actually forgot our real constitutional state, that we are fragmental parts of Krishna, and our only duty is to satisfy our Lord. My duty is to satisfy, my duty is that I may satisfy my Lord, and only that way I will be satisfied. So we have actually forgotten our real constitutional states, and we are taking this dream life, material life for serious, which is foolishness. Simply by atonement, there may be a temporary suppression of difficulties, but they will arise again. Just like if you consume English medicines specifically, so your disease will suppress for some time, but later you will find that it will arise again. This is practical example. Shukdev Goswami says, Shukdev Goswami says that in material or sinful life, we act in a way in which we are forced to commit sins and suffer as a result. Forced means we have been, we have been, we have became habitual of committing bad things. Basically, bad things are those things which is not in relation to Krishna. Basically, if we are doing something and it is not in relation to Krishna, we are not doing something to please Krishna, then that is bad. And we have been practicing all these things from eternal time. So now as we are habituated of performing things like this, uh, separate from Krishna, so now those habits force us. We are forced to commit sins and suffer as a result. This is so, and if we want to stop this cycle of suffering and victimization, we have to advance in knowledge. That's why it is said that we should give priority to hearing, reading. And it's okay if we are not able to spare enough time for reading, we should always keep hearing. The more we will hear, the more we will advance in knowledge, we will gain more and more knowledge, and we will get free from all our sufferings. Because we will act in that way. When we are full of knowledge, then we will act in that way. We discuss this thing that because of lack of knowledge, people, they are performing sinful activities because they are not aware of this thing, that what is good for them or what is bad for them. So if we keep on hearing, if we keep on gaining spiritual knowledge, then we will act in that way. Just like I was, you know, I was make. There is one Mataji. So she asked something with me, one question. So she was saying that, can I do this? So I said, she was asking basically, are there any rules to wear kanthi or to chant on Tulsi beads? So I told her, no, there are no rules. You just simply have to follow four regulative principles that you are already following. So she said, no, I'm not able to avoid onion garlic. Like I visit hospital, so there I have my duty. So that's why it is difficult for me to avoid onion garlic. I just consume whatever they give us from canteen. And the reason behind that was she stopped her hearing. I mean, she was not regular in her classes. She was not hearing regularly. So see, this is practical that if we stop hearing, then tendency of uh, basically there is tendency that there will be we will um like there will be lack of faith in the process which we are following. If we stop hearing, then we will not give priority to whatever things we follow when we hear, when we gain knowledge. And now she was regular in her classes. She is here in classes from past 2 to 3 days. She is hearing nicely. So now she is able to follow her four regulative principles. She is able to follow her food to Krishna. So this is very important that when we are consistent in our hearing, then we are advancing in our knowledge. We are gaining more and more knowledge. And this is definite that we will act like that. We will act in that way. Whatever we are hearing, whatever we are hearing, that will definitely come in our actions. Just like from eternal time, we have been hearing that purpose of life is to gratify our senses. So we are so much convinced those whatever we have been hearing, especially from childhood only, we have been hearing all these things only. So we were giving importance, and right now also we give importance to all these things because we have been hearing all these things from our childhood, since our childhood. So whatever we have been hearing, we were taking those things in our actions. So whatever knowledge we gain, we this is definite that we will take that knowledge in our actions. So intelligence is not to skip hearing even for a single day. Ordinary people or karmis are fruitive actors who work all day and night to get some enjoyable results and then again suffer. So they are actually not enjoying. When we are gratifying our senses, we are actually not enjoying, we are suffering. One devotee was explaining this point very beautifully that when we are gratifying our senses, we are not serving Krishna. It is like scratching our own skin. And if we'll keep on scratching, then what will happen? Blood will come. We are giving pain to ourselves. And you might have done this also. Suppose if you are injured somewhere, so that part will irritate you. So you'll just keep on rubbing it, and then you will find that your skin will become red or something like that. So that will give you more pain. So the more people gratify their senses, the more they suffer. Thus, the problems of such karmis are never solved. It is suggested, therefore, that one elevate himself to the platform of knowledge as prescribed in Srimad Bhagavatam. We will read this para, then we'll stop. The first necessity is tapasya or acceptance of austerity. If a doctor advises a diabetic patient not to eat but to starve for some days, although no one likes to starve, the patient must voluntarily accept starvation if he wants to be cured. This is tapasya, voluntary acceptance of a miserable condition. So we have been gratifying our senses from eternal time, but now if we have been asked to not gratify senses of like to not gratify our to not gratify our senses, but to serve to satisfy Krishna's senses, then our senses will revoke. This will be a revolutionary act for our senses. But if we really want to cure our disease, this miserable condition basically, that even though we are eternal being of Krishna, we are fragmental part of Krishna, and our condition should be like this, that the moment we are saying Krishna, so our heart should filled with ecstatic love for Krishna. This is our real condition. But because of our diseased condition, we are not able to experience this that ecstatic love for Krishna. But when any person hears about it, he come to know this, then he voluntarily accept uh, an austere life. The ability to do this is good, and human life is meant for that purpose. All right, we will continue discussion in our next class if Krishna is willing. Thank you so much for joining. It was a beautiful discussion again. We will stop here now. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Prabhu.